So so that's kind of what my mentality when I went with the Copics. I had to go out and I had to try them out. So the first thing that I did was I went on the Copic site, and I don't know what the site is to begin with, but two things that you absolutely must have if you're oh boy, I didn't get my little screen thing so I can adjust. Let me just grab that really quick. Um, my webcam control so then I can zoom in and zoom out as I need to. Okay, that's good. So two things that you absolutely need. You can't live without. First thing is a Copic marker hand color chart. I know it seems really obvious, but this is one of those things you absolutely have, especially if you have a really huge collection of colors. Um, you can't do without this because this is the only way that you can really track what colors you have, and it's a really good guide when you're working on projects. So you can always use this as your reference guide, and as you buy them, all you have to do is you fill in the colors as you go. You downloaded one? Yes, I downloaded one and I keep one at my local scrapbook store. And that's one of the good things about local scrapbook stores versus buying them online. That they keep these for you. And by all means, if you buy them online, just take them to your scrapbook store and just update the list. So definitely need one of this. And I don't know if you guys know, but all of them are kind of in order by their they're called broad classification, so it's kind of like by their color group, and then they're sorted by number. So let's say, for example, this one is BV right here. So that basically means that it's a blue violet. And the way that Copics work is that they always have two numbers, right? So the first number is basically it's the intermediate classification. So it's basically all of those colors kind of coordinate within that group. And then the second number it's kind of like the shading. So if it's a 0, it's the lightest color within that color group. And if it's a 9, because 9 is the highest that they ever go, that's the darkest color within that color group. So if you're ever looking to figure out what colors I should buy within a color group, my recommendation with that is always, if you're doing like BV, which is just the blue violets, always buy like the 00, whatever the closest to 00 is, and then buy the 09, which is like the darkest color in that family group. So that's always a good guide for beginners, the lightest and the darkest, because you can always blend as you need to. And then if you want to do something like where you want to do more shading, then I always get kind of like the middle color. So something around the 4s and the 5s is always good. And that's what's awesome about Copic markers is that their system is very easy to use. And that's why these charts are really helpful if you're doing it, just to kind of, see what the range is. So for example, like here, the VVs have 00 to 08. And those are the colors that are within that color family. So you know that obviously the 0 is the lightest within that, and then the 8 is the darkest within that color group. But then if you go down, then there's the BVs, 11s through 17. So you always know that the 11 is the lightest and the 17th is the darkest within there. So always kind of, look for that kind of stuff. So definitely. And then if you guys, like I said, with these things, I wouldn't rush into just buying them to buy them. I would really download these and kind of get to know and get a feel of how they work. How long have I been using Copics? I've had some Copics for probably about 6 months now. I haven't been coloring as much as I have in the past week or so, believe it or not, because I wanted to, again, it was something that I wanted to be able to play and feel and actually dedicate the time to doing it. So, hey Dee Dee, thanks for joining. And last week, I actually felt that I had finally the patience to sit down and play with them and just go to town with them. So definitely download one of these charts, even if you don't plan on doing Copics anytime soon. It's good to get acclimated and familiar with the way that their classification system works. That's really awesome. So, and then I don't know if you know, but right here it kind of tells you there's two different kinds of markers, and there's Copic Chows and just the Copic sketches. There's really no difference between the two. The only difference is that the sketch holds a lot more ink and it's more of a barrel shape, whereas the Copic Chows hold less ink, and they're round. So a lot of people tend to buy the sketch because they feel that, it doesn't roll on my desk and it's easy for me to get and it has more ink, but it really doesn't make a difference. At the end of the day, they do the exact same thing. So if you're looking to be more economical, by all means, just buy the chows. Especially if it's your first try, you don't want to make a huge investment without knowing that you're going to love them. Do you need more than one blender pen? See, that's another thing I'm going to show you right now. And now I'm going to start talking with my hands. Believe it or not, I don't use a Copic blender pen. And I'll show you that in a minute. So do you guys have any questions so far? Can you use the same blender pen with yellow and blacks? You can. You can absolutely use the same blender pens. The issue with the blender pens, a lot of times folks, and I'll show you that as well, one of the reasons why their tips get all messed up is because you can't really do the blending if your paper is completely saturated. You really need it to dry a little bit, and I find that the drier my coloring is, the easier it is for me to use my blender, believe it or not. I just get whichever is cheaper in the color I need. That is too funny. Yeah, good deals are really good, but like I said, you don't need to buy a lot to make a big impact on your project. So definitely keep that in mind. I know a lot of times, we're very impulsive shoppers with certain things. I know that I can be about some stuff, but don't go crazy initially because, again, one, you're never going to be able to use 600 markers at the same time. So buy, the very minimum and the lightest and the darkest of shades, and play with those and get comfortable with those and get a feel for what they are. If you want to start with the blending, get, either the highest and the darkest and then a color in the mid-tone. That's always a good guide when you're first starting. They do have starter sets, but I find that a lot of the starter sets don't include the colors that I want. I've really been looking to see some starter sets. And again, like I said, coloring is absolutely a personal preference. There are colors out there that some people absolutely love and colors that people absolutely hate. They may not match your style. So keep that in mind when you're buying things. Sometimes I know you feel like you're going to get a better deal if you buy the sets. But then guess what? You're not going to use any of those colors. So it probably will end up in the long run being more economical for you just to buy individual colors that you know you're going to be comfortable with and that you're absolutely going to use and you're absolutely going to love than to go with a starter set because you feel you're saving like $5 or $10 on it. And then you end up, just using 3 or 4 of those markers. And then, oh my goodness, it probably made more sense for me to just go with the single markers. Oh, so that's a really good deal, $5.50. Especially if those are the sketch. I get mine for about $4. Mine are the chows. And again, I just buy very simple colors. And you see, Deb, that's another thing. I know that there's a lot of folks that, they give you specific guidelines on, this color you should get for the skin and this color you should get with that. There's no particular color. Like I said, there's skins are pretty much just as diverse as people are. And you can pretty much use, okay, for example, let's say right here, all of these right here, the ROs and the EOs and these, they all have different colors. If depending on the color group, let's say the Rs, they all have a red tone to them. So it's really good to know what the different classifications and groups are, because if you go and you start looking for a marker, if you know that it starts with an R and it's a 00, it's a skin color, but you know that it also has a red tone to it. So if you want to have skin that looks kind of reddish or has that really blushy kind of look, then absolutely go with the red tones. But if you want something that's a little more earthy, and all of the E's, any of the markers that start with E are the earthy colors, then you want that yellowy brownish tone to your skin. So again, some skins, some of the recommendations that they do for skins are awesome. I've watched probably every YouTube video that ever existed on skin tones, and I can tell you that the colors that I use are absolutely not the ones that are recommended. Again, it's very much a personal preference. So that's why I thought it would be helpful for me to do this kind of, chat with you guys because I want you guys to really know that Copics are just as diverse as everyone out there. It's everything that you buy, you need to absolutely be passionate about. Don't buy something just based on a recommendation because you're probably end up not liking it. I don't know if you guys know, but Hobby Lobby sells Copic markers, and you can absolutely try them out when you're at Hobby Lobby. They have those little what do you call it? Those little pieces of paper hanging so you can try out the markers. I love trying them out there. I may not end up buying them at Hobby Lobby, but I go in and I try them out and I test them out and I look at the colors and I play with them. And then I go to my local scrapbook store and buy them because I know I'm getting a better deal. You're up to 13, Vicky? See, that's good. That's good that you haven't absolutely gone crazy with it. So, okay, so now that we're kind of through the whole Copic marker color chart, which is absolutely a must-have, even if you haven't tried them yet, you need to get this. It's most important thing is understanding the classification. So the first two letters, which are the, it's basically the color family that it's within. So the B and the G is the blue-greens, the B and the Vs are blue-violets, and you'll easily, they're very easy to recognize. I mean, B is blue and B is violet and G is green and red is R. So once you kind of get familiar with that, it's very, very easy to go to the store and kind of understand what you want and what you don't want. And then the only one that's a little wacky is like the E's. But E, if you always remember, it's Earth. Those are the browns, and those are the ones with the brown tone. So definitely a must-have. You have to have this. And I don't know if you guys noticed, I have mine's colored in. So look how many I have. I have very little. I think I probably have 20 of them. And I'm very happy with the 20 that I have. And I think I probably just need like one or two more. I don't know if you noticed, I have absolutely no blues. I have no idea why. I just never picked them up. So those are two that I absolutely need to get, are two blues. And I need to get one more orange because I never got a really bright orange. I only got some tones of the yellow reds. So you can find it on copicmarker.com. That's where I get it. I get it from the source. And truly, Copic markers were probably created for like real artists who do a lot of sketching. It's become super popular with digis lately, and it's really, really awesome that a lot of crafters have picked it up because it's a great opportunity to express yourself in a different way. So I absolutely love it. I encourage you to try them if you do. But again, personal preference with the colors that you do. Don't go by what anybody tells you. Definitely try them out before you get them, and then just know that you don't need to buy 100 of them to be happy. So I'll show you. I'm going to show you how I store them too, and I don't do anything super fancy. Don't print out your chart on just plain typing paper. That's another thing. I'm going to tell you what kind of paper I use for this. And you guys are going to be super, super shocked because there's also a lot of recommendations on what papers you can use. And again, this is only what I use and what works for me. I say try it out and see if you love it. And if you don't, try something else. So let me show you the other thing that I have from Copic before I show you kind of, what papers I use and how I color and where I get my digis and that kind of stuff, because I know that's also helpful. But Copic also has this, and this is tremendously valuable. It's a 346 color wheel. Basically means they have 346 colors, and all of this shows you every single color that they have within their color family. You wait, Haiti. I'm going to show you what I use. So these are all the color families. So basically everything that's included within on this chart is on this color wheel, right? So they're all classified in kind of these triangle shapes right here, and everything is grouped. So here are the blue greens and the yellow greens and the yellows, and just around the circle, anything that's kind of like a neutral. And the blacks and the grays and the earths are considered the neutrals, are all within the center wheel. So you see all of these are all of the neutrals. And then you'll easily see, if you go from like left to right, the different groups. So again, remember, if it starts with a 0, then all of the other colors that follow it are going to be shades of that color. So let's say if you see a 0, 0, you'll know that the 01, the 02, the 03, the 04, the 05, up until 09, because Copics always end in a 9. if they even have that color in that color family, all of those are going to coordinate really well with each other because they're just kind of shades of each other. And the same thing for everything else. So here, for example, the R's, right? So this one's an R30, so it starts with R, which is red, and then the 3 is that color group, right? So there's R30, R32, R35, R37, R39. So when you're starting, it's really easy to kind of stick to that that group because you'll know that these are going to shade absolutely perfect for you. So this is really good to have with you when you go to your craft store because it's just really good reference guide for you because you'll know this is good because you know what colors you already have, but this is good because you know what colors, if you're missing anything, then it probably makes sense to kind of stick within that color family, and you'll see that they kind of go all on the same line to work really well. See, I'm glad you're learning something, Lizzie. I'm telling you, when I first started with the Copics, I kind of just played with this and this and just looked at them for a while and kind of said, okay, which of these colors am I absolutely going to use? Which ones I'm not going to use? And it's perfect. So definitely have one of these. And what's really good is that Copic is really good about educating. I mean, they really, really are. Here again, they tell you exactly what each of these numbers and each of these symbols mean. Exactly. So here it says, you know, the broad classification is basically the 2 letters, and that shows you the color type. So in this case, it's blue-green. Then the first number right here is your intermediate classification, and the color, it says the color number within color type and the variation of 0 to 9. So you'll know that this number can be either 0 or 9, but obviously if it starts with a 0, every other color within that group from a 1 to a 9 is always going to coordinate and it's always going to blend really well. And then the last number is the one that specifies what the brightness is. So 0 is the absolute faintest color within that group, and 9 is the absolute brightest and richest color within that group. So if you want light, you always go with, you know, 0s or anything between 0 and 3, I would say. If you want dark, you do anything between a 7 and a 9, and then anything between 4 and 6 are kind of your middle blending colors. So that's a really, really good guide, and that's kind of across the board. You don't really need to know a color preference. That's probably something that, you know, it's really good for you guys to keep in mind when you're purchasing your colors. Color wheel on the other charts. Yep, both of them. Thank you so much for sharing that because I know you guys would get a lot of that. And believe it or not, this is something, a guide to kind of just have in hand that's really good just to see different colors and just get inspiration. Even if you don't like Copics, it's fun to have this chart because you're like, oh, you know, I want to make a project and I have all these papers lying around. What if I did some blues and I coordinated it with some browns and some greens? So it's a really fun color wheel and it's cheap. I mean, it's free. So, you know, you don't have to buy a fancy color wheel. This works perfectly. So definitely download these. So do you guys have any questions? Did I print it offline? Yes, I absolutely printed it offline. So do you guys have any questions about these 2 things here? I know I'm kind of going a little fast now, so I just want to slow down a little bit to see if you guys have any questions for me. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Like I said, I want this to be totally informational. Did you print on regular printer paper? This one you can print on regular printer paper because obviously you're not coloring it. But this one you should print on the same color that you're going to color your Copics with because obviously you want the colors to show the same way that it's going to color on the paper that you do. So I printed both on the same paper because I just happen to have the paper in my printer, but it's not very thick paper. It is cardstock, but it's kind of thin. But it works perfectly for me. I love this. Thanks, Buckeye. So, okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you, the only ink you can absolutely use, and again, and this is not a recommendation, this is a must. It's what is more than recommended. It's kind of like the thing to use is Memento ink. So this is the reason why I use Memento ink because I Absolutely love it. It's a fade resistant dye ink. So when you use your inks, I don't know if you guys know, but Copics are alcohol based, and depending on what other inks you use, whether they're like pigment inks or stays on inks, um, the chemicals within those inks and the alcohol inks kind of, they're not the best of friends. So they'll react very differently. Copic does not react with the Memento ink at all. So if you're ever going to use Copics, Tuxedo Black is the absolute one that you should use. It's perfect. And because I use it for my Copics, I use it for all of my other stamping. It works really, really well. It's a really deep, rich black, and I love it. Did you get it because of me, Kat? I'm telling you, it's just really, really good quality. I've gotten, as of recently, I bought a couple more. I think I bought a gray one. I think it's called, I don't know, maybe London Fog. And I bought a taupe one the other day. It's just a really, really good ink, and it goes a long, long way. It's almost always sold out at my local Joann, so I always buy it online. And I always buy refillers. So I always re-ink it all the time. This is actually the same ink pad I've had for the past year. I've only re-inked it once, and I stamp all the time. You guys know I love to stamp, so this is the only thing that I will ever use. And it lasts for absolutely forever and leaves the cleanest impression. And then the other thing is, if you're doing digis, that's even the best way to do it. My printer, I think it's, let me just look at it to tell you exactly what kind of printer I have. It's okay. It's an inkjet printer. I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but the ink that's within my printer doesn't bleed either. So I love using digis because I can access them really quickly online, and I print them all the time. So everything that I've printed on here was done with my inkjet, and there's no bleeding at all. So this is a must. You like free digis, Tanya? Free is always good. Oh, did you miss something, Kimmy? Yes, I love that you can resize digis. Yeah, we'll talk about digis really, really soon. Okay, so here is the part where you're probably going to think I'm crazy and I've lost my mind. But I'm going to say it anyway because, like I said, a lot of things that I buy because I just want to have fun with it. After all, this is just, it's my hobby. It's not my work, at least not yet. So I want to make sure that I get the most value for what I buy, and I don't overspend on it, right? So that's kind of like my motto. Really, really good deal, but absolutely really good value for it. So the paper that I use to print my digis and to stamp on is the Recollections white paper. And you guys are probably going, oh my God, you use that paper? And I do. It works absolutely perfect. I saw someone say that they don't like it. I've never had an issue with the Recollections white paper. It works really perfect. It doesn't bleed on me at all. I've never had an issue with the Copics, and maybe because I've just started, but I'm one of those kind of folks that when I try something and I love it, I don't change. So I use Memento, and I love Memento ink. Someone may come out with 20 different inks down the road, but because I know that this is good and I can trust it and it works for me, I will always use Memento as my black ink. So, but the Michael's Recollection paper is awesome. It works perfect for me. I tend to blend a lot, so I feel that sometimes the fact that the paper is not so thick, it allows me to, I'm also a very quick colorer, and you'll see very soon what I mean by that. The thicker the paper, the longer it takes to saturate, and the harder it is for me to blend, I think. With this, because I tend to color a lot quicker, and you'll see why I do that. I'm not very much of a thinker when I craft. I kind of just am very impulsive, and I do. So I'm more of a doer when it comes to that thing. Probably with a lot of the things I do, kind of the same way. So I want to be able to blend really quick and not have to worry about, I need to let it dry and it's oversaturated and that kind of stuff. I find that the recollections paper, so it has a lot to do with your technique with the coloring. And again, this is something that changes for everybody. It's not going to work the same way for you because there's no two people that can color the exact same way no matter how much you want. I know I'd love to be Michelangelo, but I'm not, and I will never be. But I know that what I do and the way that I do it, I love. So so I'm happy with it. So again, it's very much your technique and your style and how you're doing it. But don't be afraid to try it by all means. You're gonna goof it up. I goofed it up. I'll show you all my goof ups because, like I said, I'll show you the good and the bad because I am also still learning. But I am absolutely looking towards getting Copic certified because I think it's a really, really good thing to do. It's really great to kind of know the different the shades within the color groups and that kind of stuff. It's just good information, especially if you plan on being really passionate about your craft. It's you really need to get educated on some of the basic things, and then kind of just play because the actual crafting part is the easiest because it's your unique interpretation. So do you guys have any questions about that? Yes, absolutely. It definitely helps with color coordinating papers. Believe it or not, I'm one of those folks when it comes to color coordinating that I don't pick any particular color. And just so you know what kind of my thinking with it is, I do things in threes. Everything that I do is in threes. So if I'm gonna pick three color, if I'm gonna do a card or I'm gonna do something, I always have three basic colors. So let's say I'm doing like a red and a blue, I'll throw in a yellow, but I'll make sure that there's an even distribution of those three colors. So I think if you do anything in threes, regardless of what colors you use within the color family, it will always look good. And I've tested that, and it actually works. So anything that you do, if you do it in threes and you do it in odd numbers, I think you get really, really good results. That's just my tip on coloring and on picking colors. I don't think there's any, particular colors that you should go with. And sometimes the color wheel is not really helpful, other than the fact that it's visual for you and you get to see the different colors. So for example, if I was looking at this color wheel right now, I would probably look at the violets, the yellows, and the blues, and those colors are complete polar opposites of each other. But if I do like the background in purple and I do some details in blue and just kind of highlight it in yellow, that'll work. Or if I flip it around and do the background in purple and the highlights in yellow and just the accents in blue, it works. Trust me, it works. Things in three really, really work. So, and my other kind of, tip when it comes to colors and stuff, and I know that's not what we're talking about, but it's kind of in the same line. As long as it's an odd number, it works. I never like to do anything in even numbers. So I kind of stick. So I'll either do ones or threes or fives of anything. I don't normally do anything that's like twos or fours or six. I don't know why, but that's just that's odd. Yeah, it's odd. Have you stamped with Jessica's stamps yet, Nikki? I didn't know Nikki was on. Yeah, always in odd numbers. I just feel like even numbers is just really close to perfection. And I'm just odd. Oh, I've never seen Peaches on before. She's new, I think. I haven't used Copics on tissue paper. I'm not sure how it would work. Actually, I'm not a big fan of tissue paper, actually, but I do like it to spray it with Lindy's Stamp Gang. I always end up spraying paper just to spray it, and white tissue paper works really well. Oh, that's so funny, Tanya. You're too funny. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's funny. A lot of folks like they'll come on, but they don't sign on, which is fine. That's, again, a personal preference whether you want to chat or not. But it's just so much fun to chat. So I tend to sign on as much as I could. So, all right. So do you guys have any more questions about the paper or the inks or um, my nutty why I do things in threes? Hey, Barbara, thanks for joining. We're just kind of talking about Copics. I don't know if that's your thing, but we're just kind of learning my tips and tricks on things. It's again, it's just my personal preference. I just like sharing what I learn along the way. Cool. Aww. Talking about little ones, it's so funny because I've been redoing my room and I'm kind of going off the wall again. But um, the way that I had my stuff laid out, I had them in, I had them laid out so I had all of my cards that I got for my birthdays and just a lot of really fun stuff. And Secret sends me cards all the times and they're just so beautiful, so I love to display them. Um, I had them all on the floor in Ziplocs and just piles because I want to be able to put them back up in the same way that I find them. I took them down. I'm kind of anal about things like that. Not that anyone will notice whether I put it up differently or not, but I will. And my little monster loves being in my craft room. I think he's obsessed with paper. And he grabbed one of my Ziploc bags, and thank God it was my bag. It was just stuff that I had made and I can redo. He was crumbling and chewing on them. And oh my God, I almost had a heart attack. But you don't want to react because he is 14 months old. So I don't want him to get scared or worried because I'm going to yell. So I was like, oh my goodness. So I just grabbed it from him and I said, that belongs to Mama. You're not supposed to be playing with those, but I'll give you another piece of paper to play with. So I didn't want to scare him, but oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It was crazy. I almost got a heart attack. But it was the things that he actually crumbled and chewed on were my Halloween stuff. So I wasn't too upset about that because I know I could redo them. Um, but you know what? Shame on me for not watching him because had I been watching him, he wouldn't have done that, right? So I kind of blame myself more than I blame him. Aww. How old is your baby? He needs some chew toys. He's got lots of toys. He's actually a really easy baby. Like, I'll just put him on the floor with a couple of his cubbies, and he'll just go to town playing with them and stay in the same spot. He happened to have been in the craft room that day with me because I was kind of organizing stuff, and of course I didn't bring any of his toys in here, so it was my fault. So I blame myself for that. Nice, Linda. Yes, it's being recorded, Mama Kay. We kind of have just gotten through the really, really basics, how to read the charts, what inks you need, what papers I like to use, my crazy, um, in threes kind of thing. So I'm gonna move this over to the side and I'm gonna show you my huge collection of markers. And you guys are gonna be like, oh my God. It's not. It's probably the smallest. Good night, Mama Kay. All right, so here we go. Let's see. Where's my screen so I can see? Ah! You weren't supposed to see that yet. Let me close this thing here. And let me see where this is. Yep, that's actually the project that we're going to be working on. So, okay, check this out. This is my big, ginormous box of Copics. It's not big, right? No, this is actually just one of those shoe boxes from Home Depot. I paid $1 for it, and it works perfectly. Perfectly, perfectly, perfectly. And like I said, I think the way that I'm going to kind of work with it, if it doesn't fit in this row and I can't see it, I won't buy anymore. This is the number of colors I can work with at any individual time. Night veggie. I'm sorry. Nice night Vegas. Yep, this is all I need. So let's count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. There's 19. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but this one right here is not like the others, right? No, you know what, Tanya? If I do get certified and when I do get certified, it's more about being learning more the technique and the style and how to do the blending than about getting more colors. Because I think that with these basic colors, you can do a lot with them, a lot more than you would ever think you do. So, so check this out. So this is one of those Adirondack alcohol ink fillable pens. So I don't know if you know. So these are made by Tim Holtz, and he uses these all the time to fill them with his alcohol inks, right? This is what I use as my blending pen. And the reason why I love it is because it's really chunky. I wish all of these were as chunky as this, and I wish all of them, they actually are refillable, so that's not a thing. I just love the thickness of this. So do you use alcohol inks with Copics? All the Copics are alcohol based. These all come pre-inked, so you don't have to fill them, but if you ever run out, you know, you can, I think you can buy refills for them. I haven't run out of them. I haven't had them long enough to run out of them. I don't use them as often. And I'm also very cautious about the way that I color, so I don't want to waste it. Oh, so this big thing is a blending solution. So basically, I fill it. I don't know if you guys know, but Tim Holtz sells a blending solution. Let me go get it so you guys can see it. It's my, yeah, it's my blending pen. Okay, let's see if I get it. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have watched Tim Holtz, and you know, guys know I love him. He does a lot of techniques with alcohol inks, and this is the way that they come, right? They come in this, and these are the tools that he sells so that you can fill them up with the alcohol inks, right? This is a solution that he uses to blend with, right? And this is one of those things that if you ever get Sharpies or anything around, because they're alcohol based, you can just put it on your skin and it'll clean it off. So this is kind of like a cleaning solution as well, but it's perfect for lightening and blending and reworking and removing stuff. So really awesome, and it's not expensive at all. What I love is that you can get these at one of your craft stores for like 50% off. A lot of times you can't find the Copics, and it works just as well as anything, and it's acid free, which is a good thing, right? So I use this absolutely all the time, and blending solution is one of those things that you'll use a lot more than you use any of these colors. So being able to fill one of these barrels with a lot of solution and keeping it by your side all the time is really awesome. So this is just my personal preference. I don't know if anyone else uses this. I actually haven't seen anyone else use it. But again, like I said, I'm very frugal and I'm very economical with the things I do, and I like using making multiple uses of my products. So if I already had the blending solution from Tim Holtz and I use this for, you know, just creating grungy stuff with Tim, I want to be able to use it in another way. So instead of buying another Copic blending solution, I just use one of these. And I happen to have gotten these really cheap. I don't remember where I got them. They probably cost like $5 or so, but totally worth it. I think I paid $1.99 and bought like 20 of them. So that's why you see this one is one that I bought. And then what's cool is that it has this little band that you can color with the color that's inside. So you just basically take the alcohol ink and you just squeeze it on here and it just rubs on. So that's kind of how I use that. And I always keep this nice and filled. And I'll just show you guys now how easy these things are to refill. And then these kind of work the same way the Copics do. One of the tips is a brush tip. The other side is a fine point tip. So if you want to do really thick details, you can. If you want to do really thin details, you can. So do you need one for each color? No. This is the one that I use for all of my colors. Just one. That's it. I don't use 20 alcohol inks, or I'm sorry, 20 blending pens. I just use one, and that's it. So you see, this is the one I use, and it has a little bit of shading on the tip, but for all of the coloring that I do and the fact that I use a lot of blacks and grays and browns in my coloring, this is probably as clean as could be. The blending solution, it kind of reacts with the alcohol ink, so it's like it negates the colors, so you rarely get any of you know, excess color on here, and if you do, you can just wipe it off on a piece of paper. So it's really cool. Yeah, no, this is it. I'm telling you, what's in this box is all I use when I do Copics. My 19 colors and my one blending tool, which is not, you know, a Copic blending tool, but it works just as well. Yep, it disappears. That's basically what it does. It kind of pulls the color out and just makes it lighter. So that's kind of the way that the alcohol blending solution works with the Copics. The other thing that I do, because I don't have that many colors, remember how I was telling you that the colors they're in color families, right? So if you look at these, let me show you one of them. This particular one right here is the Copic Chow in Y11, right? So you know that this is in the yellow group, and then the first number is the 1, so that's a color family, right? And then there's a 1. So you obviously know that there's a 0 before this, but I didn't want to have the really, really pale yellow. I went with something a little warmer than the pale, so I went with the 1. And then I went with the Y15. Again, this is not one of the darkest colors within that color family, but again, it's still staying within the Ys and the 1s, and then I got the 1 and the 5. So I got the lightest and the medium color. So does that make sense to you guys? And I felt that this yellow was bright enough that I didn't need another yellow at the time, and I don't think I really need it. So the way that I put them in here, I kind of sort them by color family first, so the Ys and the yellows, and then I sort them by the first number, and then I sort them by the second number, because I kind of want to look at it in my case the way I would look at it on the color wheel and the way that I would blend with them. So that's why I find that this little box right here, which is just a plain little shoe box, the 19 would be a really, really bright, intense yellow. Absolutely. It's perfect because I know that I can look at them and they'll work for me. Here's another one right here. These are the colors that I use. What did I do here? I goofed it up. Okay, so these are the colors that I use when I'm doing any blacks or any gray tones. I know it doesn't look like a lot of colors, but these are the ones that work for me, and they work perfectly. So we're gonna look. The black, this is just their basic black. It's just a 100. It doesn't even have a color tone to it. A color family, it's just straight 100, and you know that this is their truest, darkest black. So this is a good one to have. Depending on how you're coloring and if you're new to it, I don't know if this is one that you must have in the beginning, because it is truly really black and you really need to blend really well with it to use it. But I tend to like coloring in black, and I love this, and I'll show you exactly how I do it in a minute. The next ones that I have are these. So these are the C's, right? So these are cools, and this is the C5 and the C7, right? So again, both pretty in the middle tones, but perfect colors that blend with my black. So they kind of, you see the gradation from darkest to lightest, and this looks a little lighter than it is. It actually is a warmer gray than it looks here. So that's why it's good to have those charts, because you can actually see the true colors for it. So then I put these in here like that, so I know that those are, when I'm grabbing, I always grab, you know, from the left to the right, because I tend to color from darkest to lightest. 05 and 07. I'm sorry, C5 and C7 is what they're called. Yep. And those come, let me just look at the chart because I don't remember. See, there's C00, C0, so those are just the basics within that family. And then there's C1 through C10. But keep in mind, just because there's a 1 through a 10, they don't always come in a chow or a sketch. So sometimes you don't find the exact same colors. So that may be the reason why I only picked up the 5 and the 7, because I only buy the chows, and the other colors within these groups don't come in the sketch. And I've kind of stuck to the chow, so I'm going to stick to that. I don't feel that I need to buy something else to kind of work with it. You can work with what falls within that same group of colors and family and sizes. So, yep. But it works perfectly. Again, unless you're a professional colorer and it's your job and you get paid to do it, I don't think you need the 365. But again, that is only a personal preference. So that's kind of how I work with that. And then, so then again, here we go. These violet colors here. So this is violet, right? Because it starts with a V, and then the next color group is the 1, right? And then the next one is the 2. So I didn't go with the 0 or the 1 because I didn't want the super pale lilacs. I wanted something a little bit warmer. And then I went with V17 because, again, I didn't want the super darkest purple. but I wanted something that was a pretty good contrast to the lilac. So that's kind of, like I said, it's very, very, very much a personal preference. But if you get two colors that one is lighter and one is darker, it works really well when you need to blend. So that's kind of what I went with that. This right here, the YR02, is what I use to paint my face. So anytime I'm doing shadows on my skin, YR02 is what I use. It's a very peachy, warm color, and I love this color. So I use this for all of my shading. And again, like I said, skin is very much a personal preference. You'll use whatever colors you feel work great for you, but this is what I use. So that's the reason why I only got one of these peachy colors. And this one, let me see what color. It's called light orange, actually. It's not even a skin color. But I find that it worked really well. And now that's why I said I need to get another orange, because now I need to have, you know, a lighter and a darker tone of the orange. Okay, so then here goes my reds. And I have R22, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's kind of a pattern going. I don't really get the 00s or the 1s, and I don't really get the last one. But in this particular color, I wanted a true red. So I got R22, which is a, what is this? A light prawn, so kind of like, you know, a shrimpy color. And then I got the R29, which is kind of the richest color in the red. So it's lipstick red. And this is actually a really popular red. I found that from watching videos, it's always sold out everywhere. People just love buying lipstick red. Richer colors in the twos. Yes, richer colors in the twos. So that's why I bought the reds in the twos, because I kind of absolutely wanted to have the lipstick red. So then I needed a color that was within that same color family that coordinated. So I went with the twos on that one. See, good catch, Cat. All right, so here we're going to go with the browns, and this is kind of completely different. These are two different color families right now. These are the this is E71, so E stands for Earth, right? And then the 7, and then I did E71 and E77, so I got something really light and something really taupey, and then something really walnutty, right? For this. And then this other color I got was because I just wanted to add some highlights within my hair. So I got the E37. And I know this doesn't make any sense at all right now. I'm probably completely throwing you off. But these two colors right here, the E37 and the E77, are really the colors that I use the most for coloring. So that's why I said, even though that there's some guidance and you guys kind of know, you know, stick to these colors and stay within these color families, then there's crazy people like me who go ahead and use these two colors that are complete polar opposites, and they work. So those are the browns that I got. Then here are these are kind of other colors that I've gotten that work really well for me. And again, these I've only bought singles of them. So the E00 is my basic tone for my skin. You'll notice that it's E for Earth, right? And 00 is one of the lightest colors. So this one is called Skin White. It's not really white, you know, it's kind of a little warm, but there's also colors within this one. I believe there's an E000 and maybe something, yeah, E000, 4 zeros, and then there's an E with 3 zeros, and then there's an E with 2 zeros. So I didn't want to have to buy 20 colors for my coloring. So when I do skins, I basically use my E00, and then I use this peachy color to just blend it. So I get YR02 and E00. Weird, right? But it works for me. So that's what I do. So that's why, again, personal preference. You can't, you know, whatever you choose to use is perfect. And you see, these over here, R00 right here, is pinkish white. This is what I use for my cheek colors. So anytime I'm doing cheeks, I use this, or I'll even be bold enough to use this, because depending how well you do your blending, this will blend really well, the R22. So this one is just the light prawn, and I've used this a lot for my cheeks. Yes, R20 is perfect, but again, it's a lighter shade because it ends in a 0, right? And depending what color tones you use, so I'm using a richer orangey tone. So you see how this is the base that I use for my shading on my skin. I obviously need something that's a little richer and pinker. so that when I blend it, it doesn't look like a huge contrast. So again, depending on what colors you use for your skin, your peach colors and your blush colors can be either really intensified or really, really light. So again, that's why I say you have to play with them. You have to totally feel comfortable with your technique before you go and invest in stuff, because then you'll spend money and then you'll never use them ever again. So let's see. So that's what we have so far. So the R00 was a really light one that you can just use for really soft blush on the cheeks. But if you want something a little more intensified, you can use, like she said, the R20 or the R22 and just do a really good job of blending in. This one right here, E31, no idea. I bought it and I liked it and I thought it was a great beige, and I actually use this to do blondes. I don't know why, but I have it and I'm going to use it. So that's what I have for that one. And then here goes my greens. So this one is blue green, right? And I got the 93, so that's, you know, one of the lighter colors, and then I got the 96, so kind of in the middle. I like more mossy colors, so I found that these are really, really good. And when I want to add just a little hint of kind of pop, I use green 28. So you'll notice that I have about 3 of them in here where I have just one sporadic random color in there, and that's the one, those are the ones that I will probably invest in getting another coordinating color. So I'll definitely get another coordinating color for the greens, because this is just from the green family. Remember, these are blue greens. I will definitely be getting another one of the E's. So these E31, I'll probably get some, probably E38, E39. I also will be getting another one of the yellow reds, because I need something a little more orangey. And then I probably will get, let's see, probably another one of the reds. So the this is a red 00. I probably won't go as dark as 09, because I want to use something that's kind of coordinated. So when you buy something that's like a 00, that's the very lightest within that group, I'll probably go with like a 4 or 5 or a 6 at the darkest, because I don't want, I want to be able to blend them, and I don't want to have to buy all 9 colors within that. So, so do you guys have any questions with that? Yeah, it's kind of, you know, you win some, you lose some, but I thought that if, you know, I stick to the, you know, one lighter, one darker, or kind of in the middle, so kind of get like, you know, a 2 or a 7. Again, you know, keeping kind of a gap of like 2 to 3 numbers between the first and the second works really well for me. And then just having some little random colors in between. So like, you know, this brown one, I love it because it kind of looks just like some highlights in my hair. So again, this is another one, E37, which I only bought one within the E3 collection. So I'll probably get an E32 or something like that. How have you been coloring along with it? About 6 months right now, but not very diligently with it. I'm not trained at all with Copics. This is kind of just me playing with my markers and kind of just what I've learned along the way. And like you see, I have not gone crazy. I've totally just bought what I love and what I think I will get the most use out of. So do you guys have any questions about that? And as you see, I'm not very traditional. I don't stick to kind of the rules. I use another blending solution with my Copics. I know that sounds sacrilegious, but it works for me and I love it. But keep in mind that when I show you how to use this, this works just as well as using the Copic blending solution. I've tried both. I just happen to like this one better. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually color, but I'm going to show you kind of what I've done and kind of my do's and don'ts, because I don't want to leave you guys stranded. And another thing is, I have a blog hop that I'm in, and I think I have to have my post up in about an hour and a half, and I haven't done that project, so we'll see how that works. All right, so here goes the first one that I did. This was the absolute first thing that I did. So what do you guys think of this? I know, isn't that horrible? I know, I'm horrible. Okay, so I'll tell you what I love about this and what I totally dislike about this. And I'll see if you guys can pick it up. I wanted to do browns and I wanted to blacks, but this is one of those things that I did when I had no idea how to do the shading and the coloring. Um, one of the things that I kind of found that has been helpful is, can you zoom in for detail? Absolutely, absolutely can zoom in. Let's see. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Let me just make sure that I got this going right. I want you guys to be able to see it. Okay. Is that good, or do you want me to zoom in a little bit more? Let's zoom in a little bit more. And oh, there we go. Okay. So let me tell you what I love and what I dislike about it. One of the things that I found that's really important when you're coloring is to really bucket your project into different pieces. So what I find is that, like, if you're doing the hair, I don't know if you noticed, I kind of went ahead and I did just kind of colored the darker lines in black. That's a no-no. Absolutely not. The way that it works is kind of, you need to envision your project or your hair as if it's a perfect circle, and that's what I find is helpful. So if you look at it from a perfect circle and you think of where your light source is coming from, I'm not very much about the light source, but I always envision that my light source is coming from the right side, right? So you always know that the colors are darker and more intensified on the outside and more highlighted on the inside. That's kind of just the way that nature works. So when I colored this, I should have envisioned it more as if, you know, this was the outside and just this part right here was the inside. And then you see how, and this is going to vary with every single project. So like I said, play with your projects, and you'll see the difference. I'll show you the difference really soon. So you see, I should have had my shading probably in the middle and then just had, you know, the darkest on the outsides, around the lines, around the back of the head, and then had some of the shadow within the middle. With this, I decided that I was just going to kind of break the hair into quadrants and do the shading that way. I guess it does look cute, but if you're kind of learning to really color the way the Copic works, I don't know if this is the way you want to do it. This one right here is a little closer to the way that I would want to color it, because the way that I looked at this one was this right here, the front part of it, and you can look at it as if the quadrants are divided by the solid lines, right? The thicker the black line is, look at those as if those are individual pieces. So envision that this part right here is just one piece, and then look at it like this is another piece, right? And then envision that this is another piece, right? So this one is broken into 3 quadrants, and within this one I've gone ahead and highlighted it around and made the lighter colors within the center, right? So in this one I kind of divided this one into 2 quadrants. Again, same thing, darker on the outsides and then warmer and more highlighted in the middle. So I find, did you try it again with the light source? No, absolutely not. I know that I'm not going to have a light source sitting around me. I'm a very impulsive crafter, and I just didn't do that. So yes. So, and that's exactly how the dimensions are. They are 3 colors. There's the darker grays, the darker black, then the warmer grays, and then the lighter color in the middle. I color in circles. I really do color in circles. And yes, flicks work really well as well. But again, I find that it's a personal preference, and not everyone colors the same way. So because someone's saying do it in flicks, I say absolutely try it in flicks. And the reason why flicks are taught within Copic classes makes absolute perfect sense, because the darker color as you flick, let me just get a piece of paper and I'll show you what it looks like. Of course, now I don't have a piece of paper. Let's see. Let's see if I have a piece of just plain paper. Well, no plain paper here. But, so let's say we're just going to flick. So we're going to grab this, right? And flicking is basically that, right? So you have your warmest color on the outside. So you see how this is the warmest. And then this is kind of more lighter color. And then you have your really light subtle tones. So flicking, it kind of gives you that 3 color effect. And that's the reason why you don't really have to have that many colors, because depending how you intensify your colors and how you use your colors, you can very easily get gradation with just this in a blending solution. But again, you need to be able to color for quite a bit of time and be able to play with them a lot to be able to get that effect. So that's kind of the way that I did this. And then for the actual flowers and stuff, what I did was I kind of envisioned it again like a circle. I work in circles. So I outlined kind of the outside of the black lines, and then I kind of lightened it in the middle. So you see how I have that shadow and that lightness and highlight within it, but I only used two colors because I kind of I did the darker on the outside, and then I did the lighter in the inside, and then I blended it. And then the same thing with the sleeves. I just highlighted the outside with the richer color. I colored the outside with the lighter color, and then I just blended the middle. And again, working in circles for everything. So that's how I did that. Okay, so let's put this one aside, and I'll show you the one that I absolutely love. Okay, so let me show you this, and then I'll show you comparison. And don't pay attention to the reds. Is this the one? Oh, here we go. Okay, look at the way I did the hair on this one, and then look at the way the color looks on this one. So do you see the difference in the blacks? Do you see how this one, I decided that I was actually going to use quadrants in this, and I looked at it as these were 3 different pieces, right? And it looks exactly, that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like the light is shining on her hair. So I went ahead and I did the darker highlights, and again, I'm working like if it was a circle, right? And I'm looking as if the light is coming from the right, and it's just kind of directly shining on. And you see, it's not really a perfect circle because it's more like, it's more crescent on the top and then more flatter on the bottom. When I did my shading, I kind of used that oval. So that's what I did here. So you see it's darker on the outside, darker along the face. And anytime that you have any kind of detail, you know that that's going to be your warmest part. So you always add your warmest part within, because there's obviously a lot more shadow because there's something kind of casting on there. So all of this around here is always darker, and then it lightens as it gets to the middle, and then gets darker as it blends out. Does that make sense to you guys? You're sticking to crayons. And then again, the hair. Do you see this hair versus this hair? This one has a lot more breaks in it, whereas this one, it's more warmer on the outside and more lighter in the center. So that's kind of the way that I work. I kind of work my Copics now. I'll show you really bad ones. Here goes another one. I was trying to do some yellow, and again, I don't have all the perfect yellows, so I decided I wanted to blend it. But this was one of the first ones I did. Not good. Really bad. Really bad. Because I decided, in this one I was looking at it as each of these little pieces were separate. Doesn't work for this particular digi, because this particular digi wants to work as if it's one whole piece, and then just with the lighter part within the center. But you see this one, again, the 3 quadrants, right? And again, making sure that they look like they're circles, darker around all of the details, darker around the outsides, right? And then the lighter colors are within the centers of each of those quadrants. So it's just kind of one of those things that you have to play with. There's ways to use grays to add shading. I don't have, again, all of the colors I needed for this particular shading, but that's something that that I'm going to get a couple more colors for. But if you're the black hairs should look more along this line and more along this line, where you see the light coming in through the center, versus this, which is very choppy and cut up. I'm telling you, I know it could be really, really scary, but it's not. It is so not scary. But you see, it is a huge, huge, huge difference between this and this. Huge, huge difference. And believe it or not, once you do it this way, you're like, oh my God, why did I do it that way? And then you just keep playing with it. And again, envision each as if it's a separate little piece within the project. obviously this, you know, you want to make sure that it all stays black around it. But again, you know that anything that goes around, anything, you know, has to be darker and more intensified because those pieces are casting a shadow, right? Yeah, big difference on the boys for sure. It's a huge, huge difference. So I'll show you how I did the black one now really quick so you guys can see it. But I will definitely be doing a lot more of these to show you kind of how I did it. I'd love to see what you guys do along the lines as well. I'm sure there's a bunch of you out there that are absolutely professionals. Um, Obviously, Deb is definitely a pro. She should be doing a class because she's got like a gazillion markers, right? So here we go. So these are the three that I use when I do my black coloring. And there's some tried and true ways to color with the Copics. And again, I'm a breaker of all rules. I kind of just follow my own craziness and whatever I think looks good. But oh, you are learning, Deb? I thought you were like a pro. So these are the three colors. This one's a basic black. So this one is just the 100 basic black. This one is C7, and this one is C5 for the blacks. And I love, love, love black. Tim Holtz is rubbing off on me. You're lost, Tanya. Don't worry, we'll do this again. But well, you know, I'm gonna do tutorials also on YouTube and show you guys what they look like on there. And hopefully that'll be something that you can watch over and over again and kind of learn. Again, there's a gazillion YouTube videos out there, but again, it's a personal preference what you want to follow and what you don't want to follow. So one of the things that you're told when you're doing Copics, I'm not a professional artist. I find that this tip, the broader tip, is something that's used by someone that's a true colorer and someone that's actually coloring with Copics. But this tip right here is the one that I only use. I only use the brush tip. So to do my black hair, I always start with the 100. And if you feel that it's too, hey Judy, if it's too dark for you, by all means try another color. I mean, black does not have to be absolute black. But I'm going to kind of, let's see if I can put this on an angle so you guys can see how I'm going to color this. Okay, so you see the tip of the marker? It's very light. What you'll notice is the alcohol inks will saturate your paper really, really well. Tanya, I know a lot of people that do go with lighter colors first and then go to the darkers, but I always do my darker first because I find it's easier to blend them out than to it's easier for me to make a darker lighter than to make a lighter darker. I don't know why, but that's just the way that I do it. I'm not sure. But one of the things that I do is, like, when you do it, you want to make sure, because it's going to saturate, you're just going to kind of color in circular motion, right? So we're going to color along all of these areas. And I like to go around the borders first because Copics tend to bleed. And I don't want it to bleed too much around any of the other details. Then I'm going to be coloring a different color later. So I go ahead and I color those first. And again, I'm coloring in circular motion. And you'll notice that I'm not pressing into the paper, right? The tip always stays really, really fine. Yes, to take away is always easier to add. So make sure that as you're watching it, your tip is never bending. It's always staying really nice and firm. And then you know that you're putting the perfect amount of color on there, right? So again, I'm just going to kind of go around the edges like this. And again, the more you add, the more you have to blend, the less you add, you know, the less you have to blend. It's kind of, you know, common sense. One of the things that I do too is, you see this hairline right here? I find that it's really easy for me to do the darkest part on there because naturally everyone's hairline is much darker, right? So I kind of just, when I get to this point, I kind of just color the hairline like that, right? And then I continue to just color around this area, because remember I told you that the way that I color is that I look at this as if it's three completely different quadrants, right? So I may not have put as much, so I just go back in and just keep kind of coloring. And again, just keeping in mind that you don't want your tips to blend. So you see how I'm kind of doing that shadow, but remember I told you the whole thing about picture this as if it's a circle. Also keep in mind that this one is not a perfect circle, so I kind of am doing it this way and more flatter along the bottom, right? Looks like you. So now I'm going to go close to the face because all of the color is definitely darker as it's closer to the face. And then again, when it's along these details and along the edge on the bottom, these are always the darkest colors, right? So we're just going to color, and in circular motion, just keep coloring. And then we're just going to do the same thing on the front. So again, close to the face is the darkest, and then as you go out, it's going to be darker as well, and you're just going to keep the centers really, really light, just like that. And you don't have to go so close to the lines. I do it because I've been doing it a little while and I've kind of played with it. But if you feel more comfortable, don't go so close to the lines because once you blend it later, it will bleed a little bit, and then you don't have to do any cleaning up. But because I'm not putting a lot of pressure and I'm not oversaturating my paper, it works really well for me if I do it close to the lines. Like I said, I'm a very quick color. So you see, at this point, I'm just going to turn it around so you can see. And you'll see that the color is starting to bleed on the back. That's exactly what you want. That's telling you basically that the paper is absorbing the color really well and it's going to blend really well. So don't be afraid if you see color bleeding through the back. Okay, so now I'll just put my black to the side, and now I'm going to use my C7, right? Actually, I'm going to take my black again because I feel like I need a little bit more black around this area here because I want her hair to be really, really, really warm. So I'm just going to fill it in again like that and just add a little bit more black around here. Just again, keeping in mind that you don't want your tip to bend, because if you're bending it, that means that you're oversaturating your paper, and you don't want to oversaturate your paper at all. And I tend to leave a little bit of gaps there because I find that, oh, sorry, because then when I blend it later, it'll be fine. So now here goes the C7, and then we'll do the same thing. Again, just keeping in mind that you're coloring in circles, right? So we're just going to keep coloring and kind of close off the circle. So this is what we're doing, right? We're closing off the circle. And you see how now it's kind of looking like my circle is really ovally, more like an eye. And I'm just kind of circling it like this. Just kind of pulling the colors from the top. I tend to kind of just blend the top a little bit more as I'm working. A lot of folks tend to do that at the end, but I just like doing it as I go. So now on this side, we're just going to blend and just keep blending. And you'll notice that this is one of those things that you kind of just have to play with because there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just what your personal preference is again. And then we're just going to blend. So I don't know if you guys can see on the light. It's really, really warm right now because the colors are really, really dark. But once it lights up, you'll see the intensity of the color. So now let's go down to the bottom. And again, just kind of going in a circular motion. So you see it was kind of square when I first did it. But I'm just going to warm it up and kind of just close off that circle. So now as I get closer to the center, my circle starts looking more like an eye than anything else. And again, I just keep going around and keep coloring just to warm that up. So we have something that looks like that. I just use 3 colors when I do black. Yes, absolutely. So now I'm going to take my C5. And here's where the true blending comes in, because this is a lighter color. So this is one of those colors that once you do the center and you feel that it's not dark enough for you, you can always pull more color from the outside. And I'll show you exactly how I do that. So now you're just going to kind of color it in like this. And just keep circling around the black. So as you're circling around the black, you're kind of lightening up, but you're pulling color into your marker. So that black that's kind of blending here is just going to kind of warm up your center. So you see how I have that shadow? And I don't really like that it's so white in that area. So I'm just going to continue to blend. And the more you blend and the more, the wetter you get it, the more it's going to kind of create that overcast look versus that really stark white. So you see how there's kind of like that shadow now? And then again, we'll do that on the other side as well. So we're just going to keep adding color in here. And you see I have that really stark white, but as you continue to do in that circular motion, you're kind of pulling color from the black and drawing it towards the center. So you have something that looks like that, and then you just keep, again, going in a circular motion, just pulling it in, right? And again, for the bottom, we do the same thing. We're just going to kind of go in circles and pull the colors in. Just pulling and pulling the colors in like that. And the more you do it, again, the lighter it's going to be. The more you add any particular color of these, it kind of works just like the blending solution. It no longer is truly the color. It's more like a neutral that's kind of pulling the color from the darkest area and pulling it into the lightest area. So again, I just go back and I kind of clean it up and warm it up a little bit. And that's kind of what I do. So see how now we kind of have that shading there. And right now, again, it looks really dark. But once it lightens up, you'll notice that the shading is going to be more intensified and it looks like the light is coming in. And there's someone needs to get booed in. Who is this cheap person? I have no idea. Let me see. I'll find who they are and I'll just I'll block them. All right. I just got them out. So you see, this is kind of what it looks like now. Again, I don't know if you can see the true details of it, but believe it or not, this is going to look like this once it starts drying. And then if you feel that it's still a little too dark, this is the part where I go in and I take my my regular alcohol blending solution. And again, you can use the Copic or you can use this. And I just go in and I kind of just draw like a line in the middle. Literally just in a circular motion. And you see how now it's getting a little bit of black on the tip. It's just because it's pulling the color out. And again, the same thing, kind of in a circular arching motion, because again, let me see if I can get a pencil somewhere. You're kind of looking at this like this, right? As if this is where your light source is coming from. And I know you guys are going, why am I doing that to this? That's your light source, and it's coming in at an angle. So you want to make sure that your color comes in at an angle as well. Does that make sense? Yes, it absolutely lightens up when it dries. So, and I'm not gonna erase it completely now because I know it's still wet, but I'll show you the back of it. Do you see how it's bled through the paper? Does that make sense? So you know that this area right here is really blended and I've oversaturated it, but that's the area that when it dries up, it's going to be really light and really, really detailed. So let me just clean this up like this. Okay, I want to show you something else that's on here that I don't know if you guys noticed, but you see there's a boo-boo right here. I actually, I painted, I drew onto the face of the girl. Isn't that horrible? That's horrible, right? We don't want to do that. So this is what you do. Your blending solution is going to work to push that color back into the hair. I know, isn't that horrible, Buckeye? So you see, kind of like, my tip is kind of dirty, so I'm just kind of wiping it off on this area right here. I'm going to cut this out anyway, so I use my area around me as just a canvas. So what you do is, just with really light strokes, you're going to push this color back in. You're just going to wet it with the blending solution and push the color back in. So you see how I was able to kind of push the color in? One recommendation when you're doing this with black, don't oversaturate your paper. What you're going to do is you're going to push it back in. You're going to notice that the area is going to be wet. You're going to let that dry for a little bit, and then you're going to go in and work it again. I know that when you guys do this, you're going to play with it a lot, and you're going to retry and retry and retry. But one of the things that I found with the darker colors, you don't want oversaturate because then it'll actually bleed a lot more than you want it to. So push the color back in using the blending solution, let it dry, and then once it's dry, go in and push it in again. Dark is the hardest, but if you kind of follow that rule of, you know, push it in lightly, let it dry, then continue to work at it, pushing in the direction of the darkest color because you want the color to kind of push back into the project. That'll work perfectly. So if you make a mistake, don't be afraid. That's kind of the way that it works. So that's you got a list going. So you see, I don't know if you guys can see it, but yeah, you probably can't see it on the back, but on the back, normally if it was really, really saturated, you would be able to see where that dark mark is. Yes, the color will absolutely clean up. You see, you can already see how it's already gone from a black to a lighter gray. And now that I let it dry, let me see if I'll do it again. I'll just push and just try to keep it really close to that little piece. You don't want to go anywhere near the darker black because the more you go into the black, you're just going to make other areas bleed, and you don't want them to do that. So you see, again, I wet it, and right now all you see is the wet spot, and you don't really see the black anymore because it's kind of completely gone now. Yeah, you don't want to pull the black out at all. You're always pushing the color right back onto the darkest part. So you see, all you see right now is kind of the wet spot, not the white. So that's kind of the way you do colors on the black hair, and kind of the way you do the shadowing. Again, I like my blacks to be really rich. The lighter you want it to be, you know, the softer you do it in the middle, kind of like this one. So, but again, this will lighten up as soon as it dries. Yes, it will dry clear. Yes, the grayish tint is where the blending solution is just wet. It's not color. Absolutely not. This is just blending solution, and it will dry clear. It won't leave any kind of mess. It'll look perfect. So that's pretty much most of the tips that I have for tonight. Did you guys enjoy that? I know we went a lot longer than I thought we were going to be, and I'm sorry about that because I know it is a Thursday night, but I don't know, I've been having a lot of fun with the coloring of the Copics, and I really wanted to share this with you guys. So I hope if anything you were able to learn something and, you know, get inspired to try something new that you've been dying to try. Again, I am just as much a beginner as you guys are, so I am learning as I go. So as I learn, I will share. And if you guys learn anything, absolutely keep me in mind. Do you let images dry between colors? Again, because I've been doing it, I actually have been playing a lot with it for the last week or so, and I kind of have been focusing on the different things. What I do is, I find helpful is that when you're starting, play with one particular part of it first and do it in multiple. So if you're trying to do the black hair, do the black hair and do it over and over and over again until you love it. Yeah, that's so funny, Judy. She does call me Gesso. That's so funny. Mitzi calls me Gesso. And do it over until you like master that, and then move on to the face. And I'll do a next class so you guys can see. Let's see. Do I have it here? Okay, so it's how I did the blending on the cheeks, and how you see it's more intensified here, but because it's a side view, I kind of leave the middle section a little lighter. So just really fun. And you see how this is the peach that I use? It's just a really fun blush and just works really, really well. Again, it's kind of like play until you figure it out, and always do whatever you feel the most comfortable. Some color of hair is easier than black. I find that black is easier than any other color, believe it or not. I know that sounds crazy, but I just really like how simple it is to blend, and if you only use the 3 colors, I find that when I do the browns, I can show you really quick what I do with the browns again. Let me see what colors I use. Okay. Let's see if I can find my camera so I can show you guys. Again, with this color, I use E77, and I'll do this again, so don't worry if you're missing it, but I kind of, again, just go coloring around the edges, and you'll see I'll be doing this one a lot faster than I did the other one because I'm just going to talk through it, and then kind of go around the details, right, because you want the most of the intensity to be around that area. And again, just keep coloring, and really, really quickly and really circular motions, just do the outline, right? Just going to outline this. And again, we're looking at it as if they're quadrants, right? So this is my first quadrant down here, and just warmer around the face and just highlight, right? And then we're just going to do, remember, the hairlines are always darker because, you know, our hairlines are naturally darker, especially for those who dye our hairs, right? And then just along the face, really, really warm. So we have that. Pink colors are amazing. I love pink, pink, pink hair. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. Hair can be any color. So again, just really warm around the outsides of the lines, and then just lighter around the insides. And again, like I said before, you're looking at this as if it's kind of the light source is coming from the top, and it's coming across here, right? So I'm just going to intensify the color a little bit more along here. And just remember, don't ever bend your tip, because if you're bending your tip, that means that you're oversaturating your paper. That's just one of those tried and true kind of tips. So there goes that. And then I use, this is that odd color that I probably shouldn't be using, but I like it. It's sepia, and it's not even in the same color family, but again, kind of just blending again in that circular motion. And you'll see what I do with my browns. It's kind of really, really wacky. And you're probably going to say, Jess, why do you do that? That is the craziest thing I've ever seen, right? So I do this, right? So you see how I have that light source coming in? And I'm just going to, again, do the same thing on the top. Warming it up. And then I'll do the same thing on the bottom. So just really, really quickly coloring. As you can see, this can go really, really fast or really, really slow. I think the less you think about it, the better it comes out. So don't think about it and just go to town coloring on it, right? So just warming it up here. And then the next color I use for this is this really taupey color. So this was the E71, and this one is in champagne. And then I kind of just color the center like this, right? And you see how this one is really, really champagne-y and really, really light. Too light for my own preference, but because I only have 3 colors and I want to make sure that I use them, that's getting used. So we're just going to color it like this. So now you see that I'm kind of oversaturating the center because I really want that area to blend really, really, really well. So I just kind of just keep going and adding more color, because right now this is just acting as a blending solution, and it's just allowing my colors to really, really, really blend. Okay, so here's what I do now. Keep in mind that that's going to work as a blending solution, right? Then I go in and I take my sepia again, and I go in and I go over my browns, the dark color that I did, and then I kind of go in and I intensify the center. So you see how this is still light, and you see that light source there? But all I did was I put my sepia over my champagne. Again, total personal preference. I'm lightening up the darker color with this warm caramelly color. I'm going again and I'm intensifying the sepia that I put in as my warmer tone. And then because I went in and I really put a lot of the champagne, I'm getting that really light tone and that shadow within that hair right there, right? So again, I'm just going over the darker color with my sepia, and then going again over the sepia with this color. So I'm adding another layer of color on it. And then because, again, I used my champagne as the lighter tone, but also kind of like my blending solution, because I put a really thick coat of it. When I color it in, I get kind of the shading. So you see, I have that shadow in here, and you can't see it so well right now, but it is absolutely there, and once it lights up, it will look absolutely perfect. So Super, super quick to do. Again, don't overthink it, because like crafting, the more you think about it, the longer it'll take. Just kind of try it and play with it and find a style that you absolutely love, because you'll take 100 different classes on the Copics, and if you don't love the way that it shows or the way that it comes out, you won't be happy. So again, I find that, you know, breaking into quadrants is the best. Looking at the light source like it's coming from my right side works well for me, and kind of just, you know, making sure that the outers are darker and the centers are lighter. It's kind of like the way that I like it. So you see how the black is kind of drying off, and it's really getting lighter and lighter there. So this is the one that I did originally that's really light, and then this is the one that I just did with you guys that it's still a little dark. And then if you feel that it's still too dark, you can always go back in with your lighter color and kind of just, again, in the circular motion, kind of draw some color back in. The more you put, again, it's going to kind of warm it up, right? And it's going to work kind of like a blending solution. So you see I'm kind of just warming it up right now. And then once I've done that, because it's really dark, I go in with my real blending solution, and then I just go in and in a circular motion kind of lighten up that center core. And that's it. It's really, really as easy as that. Can you post in your blogs the colors you like and suggest for where to get digis? Absolutely, I can do that. I won't be doing it tomorrow because, again, like I said, I have to post the project for tomorrow that I haven't done yet. But as soon as I post that project, I will definitely put a cheat sheet for you guys of what I love and how I do it myself. I will also be doing a video on how to do the brown hair, which is that one, and I'll do a video on how to do the black hair and how not to do the brown hair and the black hair. I'll definitely do the skin, and then I'll show you how to kind of make the white look like it has shading with some gray, which is really fun. I wish I had the little picture that I colored. Oh, here we go. Here goes one of them. So here goes the white where I kind of intensified it with the gray. And this again is the bad hair. So don't look at that one. That was just the first one. But you see his tuxedo, how there's a light source in the center. But again, it's still really black and really prominent. So thanks so much for joining me. I really did have a lot of fun, and I really love sharing my tips and ideas with you. Again, like I said, it is my personal preference. So I hope you guys learned some fun stuff from it, and now you're not so shy to try the Copics. Because I know I was shy to try them, but I find that, again, you don't need a lot of markers to have real fun with them. So buy a few, even if you just buy the black for the hair and do the hair in black, and just get like 3 blacks and 3 skin colors, and then do everything else in paper piecing. You'll do a really, really good job. Linda, you're still on? Isn't it like midnight in New York? Good night, Buckeye. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. The more you color, the more colors you want. You have to stop, Lizzie. You have to absolutely love the colors you have and have fun with them and play with them and mix with them, because like you saw when I did the champagne color here. Let me see. Here we go. 2 of the colors were warmers, right? So the outer was more of a walnutty, richer color. Then the center was that really sepia. But then that little highlight was champagne, which is a total contrast, right? But then you can use that warmer color and go in and really blend it and intensify everything and just really get nice shading. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the show. And then I'll just stay on for a few minutes to talk to you guys. So thanks for stopping by and joining me tonight. I had a lot of fun with you guys. So stop